Hi guys, so like always we are reading Wonder and I'm going to tell you the pages. We are reading pages 95 to 110. Remember, we are hearing the story now from Via, August's sister. So she described his face to us recently, and we learned that now she's in high school and she's enjoying it because nobody knows who she is, but there are some things that are changing between her friends. After school, I hear we're driving you home today. It was Miranda in 8th period. She had just sat down at the desk right behind me. I had forgotten that Mom had called Miranda's mother the night before to ask if she could drive me home from school. You don't have to, I said instinctively, casually. My mom can pick me up. I thought she had to pick Augie up or something. It turns out she could pick me up afterwards. She just texted me, no problem. Oh, okay, thanks. It was all a lie on my part, but I couldn't see sitting in a car with a new Miranda. After school, I ducked into the restroom to avoid bumping into Miranda's mother outside. Half an hour later, I walked out of the school, ran 3 blocks to the bus stop, hopped on the M86 to Central Park West, took the subway home. Hi there, sweetie, Mom said the moment I stepped in from the front door. How was your first day? I started to wonder where you guys were. We stopped for pizza. Incredible how easy a lie can slip through your lips. Is Miranda not with you? She seemed surprised that Miranda wasn't right behind me. She went straight home. We have a lot of homework. On your first day? Yes, on our first day, I yelled, which completely surprised Mom. But before she could say anything, I said school was fine. It was really big, though. The kids seemed nice. I wanted to give her enough information so she wouldn't feel the need to ask me more. How was Augie's first day of school? Mom hesitated, her eyebrows still high on her forehead from when I snapped at her a second earlier. Okay, she said slowly, like she was letting out a breath. What do you mean, okay? I said. Was it good or bad? He said it was good. Why do you think it wasn't good? I didn't say it wasn't good. Geez, Via, what's up with you? Just forget I asked anything at all, I answered and stormed dramatically into Augie's room and slammed the door. He was on his PlayStation and didn't even look up. I hated how zombified his video games made him. How was school? I said, scooching Daisy over so I could sit on his bed next to him. Fine, he answered, still not looking up from the game. Augie, I'm talking to you. I pulled the PlayStation out of his hands. Hey, he said angrily. How was school? I said fine, he yelled back, grabbing the PlayStation back. Were people nice to you? Yes. No. No one was mean to you? He put the PlayStation down and looked up at me as if I had just asked him the dumbest question in the world. Why would people be mean? He said. It was the first time in his life that I heard him be sarcastic. I didn't think he had it in him. The Padawan bites the dust. I'm not sure at what point that night Augie had cut off his Padawan braid or that made him really mad. I had always found his obsession with everything Star Wars kind of geeky, and that braid in the back of his hair with the little beads was just awful. But he had always been so proud of it, of how long it took him to grow, of how he had chosen the beads himself in the craft store in Soho. He and Christopher, his best friend, used to play with lightsabers and Star Wars stuff whenever they got together. They had both started growing their braids at the same time. When August cut his braid off that night without any explanation, without telling me beforehand, which was surprising, or even calling Christopher, I was just so upset I can't even explain why. I've seen Augie brushing his hair in the bathroom mirror, and miraculously, and mini, mini, and he tries to get every meticulously. See, that's context clues. I had trouble saying the word, and so I kept going, and I went back to it. Now I lost my place. He meticulously tries to get every hair in place. He tilts his head to look at himself at different angles, like some magic. So he's like combing it like that. Okay, like some magic perspective inside the mirror that can change the dimensions on his face. Mom knocked on the door after dinner. She looked drained, and I realized that between me and Augie today had been a tough day for her too. So, you want to tell me what's up? She said nice and softly. No, not now, okay, I answered. I'm reading. I was tired. Maybe I'd be up to telling her about Miranda, but not now. I'll check on you before bed, she said, and then she came over and kissed me on the top of my forehead. Can Daisy sleep with me tonight? Sure, I'll bring her in later. Don't forget to come back, I said as she left. I promise. But she didn't come back that night. Dad did. He told me Augie had a bad first day, and Mom was helping him through it. He asked me how my day had gone, and I told him, fine. He said he didn't believe me for a second. I told him Miranda and Ellie were acting like jerks. I didn't mention how I took the subway home myself, though. He said nothing tests friendship like high school, and then proceeded to poke fun at the fact that I was reading War and Peace. Not real fun, of course, since I'd heard him brag about people that he had a I heard him brag to people that he had a 15-year-old who reads Tolstoy. I don't know what that book is. Interesting. But he liked to rib me about where I was in my book. In the war part or the peace part. If there was anything in there about Napoleon's days as a hip-hop dancer, it was silly stuff, but Dad always managed to make everyone laugh. And sometimes that's all you need to feel better. Don't be mad at Mom, he said as he bent down to give me a goodnight kiss. You know how much she worries about Augie. So I acknowledged. Want the light off or on? It's getting kind of late, he said, pushing by the switch at the front door. Can you bring Daisy first? 2 seconds later, he came back with Daisy dangling in his arm and laid her down next to me on my bed. Good night, sweetheart, he said, kissing my forehead, and kissed Daisy's forehead too. Good night, girlie. Sweet dreams. An apparition at the door. Once I got up in the middle of the night because I was thirsty, and I saw Mom standing outside Augie's room. She had her hand on the doorknob, her forehead leaning on the door, which was ajar. She wasn't going in his room or stepping out. She was standing right outside the door as if she was listening to the sound of his breathing as he slept. The hallway lights were out. The only thing illuminating her was the blue light in Augie's bedroom. She looked like a ghost standing there, or maybe I should say angelic. I tried to walk back into my room without disturbing her, but she heard me. Excuse me. I'm getting dry. I tried to walk back into the room without disturbing her, but she heard me and walked over to me. Is Augie okay? I asked. I know sometimes he would wake up choking on his own saliva if he accidentally turned on his back. Oh, he's fine, she said, wrapping her arms around me. She walked me back into my room, pulled the covers over me, and kissed me goodnight. She never explained what she was doing outside the door, and I never asked. I wonder how many nights she stood outside his door, and I wonder if she ever stood outside my door like that. Breakfast. Can you pick me up after school today? I said the next morning, smearing some cream cheese on my bagel. Mom was making August lunch, American cheese on whole wheat bread, soft enough for Augie to eat, while August sat eating oatmeal at the table. Dad was getting ready to go to work. Now that I was in high school, the new school routine was going to be that Dad and I would take the subway together in the morning, which meant his having to leave 15 minutes earlier than usual. Then I'd get off at my stop and he'd keep going. And Mom was going to pick me up after school in the car. I was going to call Miranda's mother to see if she could drive you home again. No, Mom, I said quickly. You pick me up or I'll take the subway. You know I don't want you to take the subway by yourself, she answered. Mom, I'm 15. Everybody my age takes the subway by themselves. She can take the subway home, said Dad, in the other room, adjusting his tie as he stepped into the kitchen. Why can't Miranda's mother just pick you up again, she said. She's old enough to take the subway by herself, Dad insisted. Mom looked at us both. Is there something going on? She didn't address the question to either of us in particular. You would know if you had come back to check on me, I said spitefully, like you said you would. Oh God, Via, Mom said, remembering how she had completely ditched me last night. She put down the knife as she was cutting Augie's grapes in half, still a choking hazard for him because of the size of his palate. I'm so sorry. I fell asleep in Augie's room, but by the time I woke up, I know, and nodded indifferently. Mom came over and put her hands on my cheek and lifted my face to look at her. I'm really sorry, she whispered, and I could tell she was. It's okay, I said. Via, Mom, it's fine. This time I meant it. She looked so genuinely sorry, I just wanted to let her off the hook. She kissed me and hugged me, then returned to the grapes. Is something going on with Miranda? She asked. Just that she's acting like a complete jerk, I said. Miranda's not a jerk, Augie quickly chimed in. She can be, I yelled. Believe me. Okay then, I'll pick you up. No problem, Mom said, decisively sweeping half the grapes into the snack bag with the side of her knife. That was the plan all along anyway. I'll pick up Augie from school in the car, and then we'll pick you up. We'll probably get there about 3:45. No, I said firmly, before she'd even finished. Isabel said she can take the subway, and Dad said Dad. Isabel said she could take the subway, Dad said impatiently. She's a big girl now. She's reading War and Peace, for crying out loud. What does War and Peace have to do with anything? Answered Mom, clearly annoyed. It means you don't have to pick her up in the car like she's a little girl, he said sternly. Via, are you ready? Get your bag and let's go. I'm ready, I said, pulling on my backpack. Bye, Mom. Bye, Augie. I kissed them both quickly and headed out towards the door. Do you even have a Metro card? Mom said after me. Of course she has a Metro card, answered Dad, fully exacerbated. Yeesh, Mama. Sorry, guys. I am getting all of these notifications. Let me put my thing on Do Not Disturb. Okay. Of course she has a Metro card, answered Dad, fully exacerbated. Yeesh, Mama, stop worrying so much. Bye. He kissed her on the forehead. Bye, big boy, he said to August, kissing him on top of his forehead. I'm proud of you. You have a good day. Bye, Dad, you too. Dad and I jogged down the stoop of the stairs, headed down the block. Call me after school before you get on the subway, Mom yelled at me out the window. I didn't even turn around, but I waved my hand at her so she knew I heard her. Dad did turn around, walking back a few steps. War and peace, Isabel, he called out, smiling as he pointed to me. War and peace. Genetics 101. Both sides of Dad's family were Jews from Russia and Poland. Papa grandparents fled the pogroms and ended in New York City at the turn of the century. Tata's parents fled the Nazis and ended up in Argentina in the 40s. Papa and Tata met at the dance on the Lower East Side while she was in town visiting a cousin. They got married, moved to Bayside, and had Dad and Uncle Ben. Mom's side of the family is from Brazil, except her mother, my beautiful grands, and her dad, Augusto, died before I was born. The rest of my family, all her glamorous aunts, uncles, and cousins, still live in Alto Leblon, the ritzy suburbs south of Rio. Grands and Augusto moved to Boston in the early 60s and had Mom and Aunt Kate, who married Uncle Porter. Mom and Dad met at Brown University and had been together ever since. Isabel and Nate, like two peas in a pod, they moved to New York right after they had me a few years later. Moved into a brick townhouse in North River Heights, a hippie stroller capital of the upper Manhattan, and I was about a year old. Now, one person in the exotic mix of the family's gene pool had ever shown any obvious signs of having what August has. I've pored over grainy sepia pictures and long dead relatives in babushka, black and white screenshots of distant cousins in crisp white linen suits, soldiers in uniform, lady with beehive hairdos, Polaroids of bell-bottom teenagers and long-haired hippies, and not once have I seen a defect, even in the slightest trace, of August's face in their faces. Not one. But after August was born, my parents underwent genetic counseling. They were told that August had what seemed to be a previously unknown type of mandibulofacial dysostosis. Medical words are hard, guys. Caused by some autosomal recessive mutation in the TCOF1 gene, which was located on chromosome 5, complicated by a hemifacial microcilial characteristics of OAV spectrum. Sometimes these mutations during pregnancy. Sometimes they're inherited from one parent carrying a dominant gene. Sometimes they're caused by an interaction of many genes, possibly a combination of environmental factors. This is called multifactorial inheritance. In August's case, the doctors were able to identify one of the single nucleotide deletion mutations that made war on his face. The weird thing is, though, you never know it from looking at them. Both of my parents carried the mutant genes. I carry it too. The Punnett Square. If I have children, there's 1 in 2 chance that I'll pass on this defective gene to them. That doesn't mean they'll look like August, but they'll carry the gene that got double dosed in August. He helped me make He helped me make him and helped to make him that the way he is. If I marry someone with the same defective chance, there's a 1 in 2 chance that our kid will carry the gene and look totally normal. A 1 in 4 chance that our kids will not carry the gene at all. And a 1 in 4 chance that our kid will look like August. If August has children with someone who doesn't have a trace of the gene, there is a 100% probability that their kids will inherit the gene, but 0% that their kids will have a double dose of it, like August. Which means they'll carry the gene no matter what, but they'll look totally normal. If he marries someone who has the genes, their kids will have the same odds as my kids. This only explains part of August this only explains the part of August that's explainable. There's that other part of his genetics that make up that is not inherited, but incredibly bad luck. Countless doctors have drawn little tic-tac-toe grids on my parents for over the years, trying to explain genetic lottery to them. Genetics uses a Punnett square to determine inheritance, recessive and dominant, probabilities and chances. But for all they know, there's more they don't know. They can try to forecast the odds, but they can't guarantee them. They use terms like germline mucosum, chromosome rearrangement, or delayed mutation to explain their science that is not exact science. I actually like how doctors talk. I like the sound of science. I like how the words you don't understand explain things you can't understand. There's countless people under words like germline mucosum, chromosome rearrangement, or delayed mutation. Countless babies who'll never be born like mine. Out with the old. Miranda and Ella blasted off. They attached themselves to a new crowd destined for high school glory. After a week of painful lunches where all they would do was talk about people that didn't interest me, I decided to make a clean break for it. They asked no questions, I told no lies. We just went our separate ways. I didn't mind it for a while. I stopped going to lunch for about a week though, to make a transition easier, to avoid fake, oh shoot, there's no room for you at the table, Olivia. It was much easier just to go to the library and read. I finished War and Peace in October. It was amazing. People think it's such a hard read, but it's really only a soap opera with lots of characters, people falling in love, fighting for love, dying for love. I want to be in love like that someday. I want my husband to love me in the way Prince Andrei loved Natasha. I ended up hanging out with a girl named Eleanor, who I have known from my days in PS22. We had gone to different middle schools. Eleanor had always been a really smart girl. A little bit of a crybaby back then, but nice. I never realized how funny she was. Not laugh out loud dad funny, but full of great quips. She said she never knew how lighthearted I could be. Eleanor, I guess, had always been under the impression that I was very serious. And as it turns out, she never liked Miranda and Ella. She thought they were stuck up. I gained entry through Eleanor to the smart kids at the table at lunch. The smart kids table at lunch. It was a larger group than I had been accustomed to hanging out with, but a more diverse crowd. It included Eleanor's boyfriend Kevin, who would definitely become class president someday. A few techie guys, girls like Eleanor who were members of the yearbook committee and debate club, and a quiet guy named Justin who had small round glasses and played violin, and who I had an instant crush on. When I see Miranda and Ella, who are now hanging out with this super popular set, we'd say, "Hey, what's up?" and move on occasionally. Occasionally Miranda would ask me how August was doing, and I'd say, "Tell him I said hello." This I never did, not to spite Miranda, but because August was in a world of his own these days. There were times at home where we just crossed paths. October 31st. Grant had died the night before Halloween. Since then, even though it had been 4 years, this has always been a sad time of the year for me. For Mom too, though she doesn't always say it. Instead, she immerses herself in getting August's costume ready, since we all know Halloween is his favorite time of year. This year was no different. August really wanted to be a Star Wars character called Boba Fett. Mom looked for Boba Fett costume in August's size, which strangely enough was out of stock everywhere. When she went to every online store, found a few on eBay that were gonna. She went to every online store, found a few on eBay that were going for an outrageous amount, and finally ended buying Jango Fett costume that she converted into a Boba Fett costume by painting it green. I would say in all, she must have spent 2 weeks working on this stupid costume. And no, I won't mention the fact that Mom has never made any of my costumes because it really has no bearing on anything at all. The morning of Halloween, I woke up thinking about Grams, and it made me really sad and weepy. Dad was telling me to hurry up and to get dressed, which just stressed me out even more, and suddenly I started crying. I just wanted to stay home. So Dad took August to school that morning, and Mom said I could stay home. And the two of us cried together for a while. One thing I knew for sure, however much I missed Grams, Mom must have missed her more. All those times August was clinging to life after surgery, all those rush trips to the ER, Grams had always been there for Mom. It felt good to cry with Mom for both of us. At some point, Mom had the idea of us watching The Ghost of Mr. Muir together, which was one of our all-time favorite black and white movies. I agreed that it was a great idea. I think I probably would have been weeping. This would have been a weeping session as an opportunity to tell Mom everything that was going on with Miranda and Ella. But just as we were sitting down in front of the DVD player, the phone rang. It was a nurse from August's school calling to tell Mom that August had a stomach ache and should be picked up. So much for old movies, the mother and daughter bonding. Mom picked August up, and the moment he came home, he went straight to the bathroom and threw up. Then he went to his bed and pulled the covers over his head. Mom took his temperature and brought him some hot tea and assumed the August mom role again. Via's mom, who had come out for a little while to put stuff away. I understood, though. August was in bad shape. Neither one of us asked him why he wore a bleeding scream mask to school instead of the Boba Fett costume Mom had made him. If it annoyed Mom to see the costume she had worked 2 weeks on the floor unused, she didn't show it. Okay, guys, this is where we are going to stop. And remember, there's a lot going on, what Via's going through, and now we're seeing how their stories are starting to come together during Halloween. So be sure to check out the discussion posts, and I cannot wait to read them. Bye, guys.